Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's beer. It's all about the beer. The beers. Get the beers in. A little bit of a twist with this month's beer podcast, as it's low to no alcohol. Now, I know what you're thinking. Might have put you off already, right there and then. But I think if you listen or watch along, you'll be pleasantly surprised, as I think you'll find a few of us were as well. Speaking of listening or watching, if you're watching us on YouTube, do subscribe. It's where all the cool kids hang out. And if you're listening, you can also subscribe. Wherever you get your podcasts, click that subscribe button. Let us know how much you love us. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the Pursuit of Hoppiness.
This meeting is being recorded.
Indeed it is, my dear. Matthew, over to you.
Good. Hello everybody, and welcome to the Pursuit of Hoppiness. I've got a slightly different one this month. We're going for low/no alcohol beer kind of thing. But before we get into that kind of business, I'll introduce the contributors, as it were. We've got Mr. Andy Cook.
Hello.
Mr. Stuart Woodmansey.
Well, hello.
And Mr. Paul Williams.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Right then, so as I said, we're kind of focusing on no or low ABV beers this month. But before we get into all that kind of business, I thought we'd look at the record. I'll start it as we normally do it, as our beers of the month, as it were. We always get into these, and it's always quite interesting to see what different things people have been drinking. So, Mr. Williams, what's your beer of the month? Doesn't have to be no alcohol.
So, for fans of the podcast, they'll probably be able to guess the brewer of my beer of the month, as I don't think it's changed in the 4 podcasts that we've done. Mine is, I will find it, it is Analog Set by North Brewing. It is excellent. So I'll give you the style guide. A hazy IPA brewed with Talus hops. Expect juicy orange zest, bright lime and creamy coconut flavours. I did indeed find all those things. Very, very nice.
Excellent. Andy, your beer of the month?
I've got 2, but there's a reason for that. On the last podcast, I'd opened one right at the back end, and we were talking quite a lot about the smashed pale ale that was so far from being pale, it was unbelievable. It was surprisingly nice. I got a sample box, and there was a couple of those in there, and there was also a citrus one in there. I might have a picture of it, which I'll find. The citrus one was delightful. I was saying to Paul at one point that I've been sort of looking for a summer beer, something that you can really get into, like really refreshing on what's going to be, I imagine, some very warm days. And that was absolutely hitting the spot. Typically, having ordered a sample box from them, they then sent me a lovely email that was like, hey, bank holiday, innit? How about you order yourself 12 of X and we'll give you 12 free. It's like, that's not good. So I managed to sort of wiggle through the offer to be able to get it to do 12 of the pale and 12 of the citrus. So obviously 24 non-alcoholic beers turned up at my house, and I've basically just been working through those a lot this month. And the pale is really nice. I said on the last podcast that I kind of wanted to not like it, and it just kept like pulling me back. And the citrus is just really refreshing. I may have accidentally had another email from them saying bank holiday again, innit? And I'm like, crap. So they should turn up at some point soon.
This is how it starts.
It's an addiction.
And then it to having a full outside fridge with boxes round the outside, and it becomes the stash.
If it ever gets to that point for Andy, though, we can't do the ABV as right, because it'll just be none.
0, 0.3,
No.
0.5.
You might be able to find like a 0.4 or something like that.
Excellent. Stu?
Okay, so myself and Mr. Moore had the pleasure of attending an actual brewery again within the last few days. We paid a little visit up to the Palace of Arts exhibition park at Wyland Brewery, where they were hosting the Brewers Table. And right at the back end, before this podcast was recorded, cheekily snuck in my beer of the month, which made this a lot easier for me, because I didn't have to scroll too far back for the picture either. So my beer of the month was a Secret Treaties by Unity Brewing. So it was a sour IPA. Looks a little bit like that for the colour. And it took us a bit of working out at first, because it had this kind of weird, kind of like tiger bread smell to it. And we were like, and everybody knows, if you've ever had tiger bread, it smells amazing, doesn't taste that great. This thing, unbelievable.
Hang on a second.
Yeah, go on, Paul.
What's wrong with tiger bread?
It's just, it smells like it's going to be the best bread ever, and then you eat it and you're like, oh, it's just bread.
So, I know this isn't bread podcast, but I'm gonna go into it. There's a loaf that Morrison's do, which is a salt and pepper, which is basically a tiger bread loaf, and it's the best bread I've ever eaten.
That's because it's got salt and pepper in it. It's not made with real tigers. Anyway, I feel like we might be digressing slightly. So this is actually a sour double IPA. It was brewed in collaboration with another brewery called Make, and it was made with peach and pineapple puree, Mosaic and Eldorado hops. But interestingly, also had a touch of almond in it. So besides the fact it smelled a bit like tiger bread, tasted like a sour IPA, you got a real hit of like marzipan on the end of it. It was like drinking a sour fruit cake, but not as heavy as that. Incredible, absolutely incredible.
Well, it looked like it was just like, this is where if he's watching, podcast alum James Williams will be saying it just looks like it's blended up Soleros.
Well, yeah, but if you had blended up Soleros with marzipan around the outside and alcohol, that would kind of be where they were going for the flavour. But honestly,
it looked delicious. It looked really good.
Admittedly, I have had very little Unity Brewing beer, but that has made me want to have a look for a few more. So, really good.
Well, we had two of theirs, didn't we? We had that one and the second one, which I can't remember the name of course. But they were both brilliant. The second one was I'll stand here. Late Night Burritos, which was an American IPA.
Yeah, that was looked very similar to that one, but was just like a big juicy
big juicy IPA.
I mean, it was a little darker and much later in the night, but it was a nice beer.
Yeah. I'd put that one on my list. I've got a list of 3. The second, I've gone with a shout out to one of my favourite kind of beers. I was talking to Stu about this a while back, and I should say that all my beers of the month come with the asterisk of Wylam's Jakehead's Supercharged IPA is the best beer in the world, and I'll fight anybody to the death over it. Therefore, everything comes with that asterisk next to it. Very close on that list comes North's Triple Fruited Go's Golden Milk. And when we went to Springwell the other week, I picked up a can of that, and I was looking through the fridge, and it's been a bad month. The stash has let me down this month. It's been a lot of kind of disappointing beers, not kind of promising what I was hoping it would deliver, and just like not really kind of like big flavours and stuff like that. And that one was just in the fridge, and I was like, yeah, there we go. That's what I've been looking for, and I've gone back to kind of Old Faithful. So that's the beer of the month. That Unity Brewing Company one was outstanding, and then just the left-handed giant blender 4 that we had while we were there, which was the beer before, and that was a sour IPA as well, wasn't it?
Yep.
Again, and that one just had that kind of. It was just outstanding. To be fair, we drank 13 beers on Saturday. I think I worked it out as.
Yeah, but not full pints. So
not full pints. No. They were thirds and halves and that kind of thing. There you go. That's like the other Solero that you blended down and drank.
Exactly. He's ticking it again. He's ticking that unlike button because he's like, it's just fruit juice. Just fruit juice in his glass.
If we have any kind of Mr. Walker or Mr. Pickering listening along, they will be uttering the words "fruit-based beverage for the lady" right now. Just try it. Just seriously try it. Really good. Really good.
They're really good. Yeah. So they're mine. The Golden Milk. I just had to give it a shout out, just because it's been probably the best beer I've drank at home this month. That kind of thing. Right, so the next kind of thing that we're doing, we're kind of carry on, hopefully, is the supermarket beer of the month. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try a beer each month from a supermarket. It'll be one of the main 4. And what we'll do is we'll either try it on the podcast or try it in advance and let you know what we think about it. So this month, Mr. Cook has kindly recommended the Beavertown Laser Crush alcohol-free IPA, which is 0.3%. I drank this last night, and it's really good. It's really
really is, isn't it? It's so nice.
I was a bit skeptical because I'd had a couple of others beforehand, and I was like, "Oh man!" But it's really, really good. If someone would have poured it in a glass for me and just handed it to me, I'd be like, "This drink's like a 3.5-4% IPA." Kind of just sit there. You probably, obviously with this one at 0.3%, yeah, you could probably drink it, instead of a can of Coke. Give you a little buzz at the end of it if you've kind of had about 10, but maybe. But you could, if someone could literally give you these, and you could drink it for an afternoon, and you think, oh yeah, I've perhaps had like, a decent IPA. I was really kind of impressed with the taste of it, and the kind of, like we talked, the mouth feel and the kind of thing. It made you feel like you were drinking an IPA as opposed to drinking. It is an IPA, but not an alcoholic IPA.
I'm sat drinking that right now, and I am enjoying it much more than I thought I would when I poured it out of the can. Because when I poured it out of the can, I thought, looks a bit pale, looks a bit thin. Because I like the thick, like sticky beer, and I'm pleasantly surprised. I would in fact go out of my way to have this again. And if as much as was to draw the straw of designated driver, if they had this, fine, absolutely fine.
Yeah, I'd second on that one. I think as well when you come back to it, like, with the mouthfeel and stuff like that, the body on it's a lot thicker than it looks.
Yeah,
I'd say there's a lot more. I don't want to say chew, but I can't think of a better word. There's a lot more chew on it than it looks like. It looks like a pretty thin, sort of weak beer, but it's actually got a lot of body to it. It's really, really good. I'd even go so far as to say it's possibly the best Beavertown beer I've ever had. To be fair.
Steady.
That's a step too far kind of thing.
Get yourself a kind of double chin when that comes out, and then let me know.
Double chin.
Yeah, it's double IPA they do for the birthday every year.
Is it Lupaloid as well? I mean, we don't want to turn this into a Beavertown cast. And was it Blood Yell as well? The blood orange. But yeah, Andy, you recommended this one. So
I recommended this because this is hands down one of my favourites. If I'm putting in a beer order, this will be in it every single time. It's almost like a staple for me. There's always one in the fridge. It's always when you open the fridge door and it's like, do I want to try something new? Do I want to try something that I drink often, or do I want to try something that I know I'm gonna get what I want? So every time it's like, I just want something solid. It's always that. So when it was a case of, we need to start looking at grabbing a supermarket beer, possibly Paul had told me that Sainsbury's had started selling these, and I was like, that is the absolute gem right there. So I took myself down to Sainsbury's. I made a special trip to go to Sainsbury's to pick up some non-alcoholic beer. It's something that while I was there, and I've been to a couple of other supermarkets recently, and it is something that I wanted to bring up at some point. In the vein of the Ready to Grumble, I don't even know what it would be called.
Hopping Mad.
Hopping Mad, my word, it's right there. Yeah, my Hopping Mad for this month.
Hang on. Whoa.
Am I getting an official 30 seconds on the clock?
You know how the format works.
Amazing.
Right. 3, 2, 1, go.
So, certain supermarkets are doing amazing jobs with the non-alcoholic stuff. They're basically saying this is a thing, like the craft beers are a thing, and the non-alcoholic stuff's starting to catch up quite quickly. So they've embraced it. Other supermarkets, it's like they're in the dark ages. You can't find anything Asda.
Yep, I was just going to say that you were referring to the all green team with that last one, because
Asda are shockingly bad. Tesco's, I started in Tesco's, like picking like the odd bits and pieces up from Tesco's, and I was in Tesco's yesterday, and I was like, I'll just have a little look, I'm here, I'll just have a little look, and was surprised when I looked through their selection. I was like, it's not that great. Especially if you compare it to somewhere like Sainsbury's. And apparently, and I'm yet to confirm this with my own eyes, but apparently Morrison's have a really good non-alcoholic offering.
I haven't looked closely at Morrison's. I looked at, because the low alcohol kind of section in Tesco near to us is next to the craft beer kind of section kind of thing, and I'd kind of noticed it's a lot of it's a lot of generic kind of lager based companies as opposed to kind of thing. I don't know. They've got the Brooklyn low alcohol one. I'm not quite sure what that one's like.
Brooklyn is one of my favourites. That is just an absolute delight to drink. And I did look, and the other thing being is you can buy the box of 4 bottles, and the box of 4 bottles is usually £4. So it's an absolute bargain for 4 beers.
But so if we go back to it's a really good crumble, because it must be annoying, kind of particularly when other supermarkets are doing a good job for this. Not to give them a free advertising, but if they want to kind of reward us in this way, £1.60 Sainsbury's. I think that, and like I said, I would normally. I'm like, if I'm not driving, I'm not drinking, which you shouldn't be. I'm like, it's fine. I'll just have water, or I'll have a Coke or something like that. I would put in a request, or say to somebody, please, I'm not driving, can you get me some of that? Or like you said, if you're going out somewhere, to a restaurant perhaps, which is like corkage or something like that, you can take your own drinks in, as opposed to kind of not having a beer, or as it were. I would definitely have one of those. Yeah, it was one of those ones where I was kind of disappointed I didn't have more than one. I'd kind of finished it. I was like, I wish I'd perhaps kind of got 2 of those kind of thing. But it's kind of being the cynic in me. I was like, I don't want to fill my fridge with too many of those kind of thing. I've got many in the fridge already.
Well, now you know this. I'm surprised, Matt. Actually, I wondered what your review of that would be, having your history with Striding Edge. But that's another story for another time.
Tell you what, it hands down is 10 times better than Striding Edge. It's way better than Striding Edge. But we won't have that argument on the podcast. It will be a war that rages on for years. All right then. Right, so let's crack. So as we said, it's the low alcohol, 0 ABV edition. What we're going to try and do is we're going to try and do these once every 4 months or so. Finding out different non-alcoholic breweries, and giving them a test. Obviously, Andy will be at the head of that, and we'll kind of follow the lead and try not to be. It's kind of tasted without prejudice, but with a small amount of prejudice at the same time. So what we've looked at, so the first brewery that we're going to look at is we're going to look at Big Drop Brewing Company. So they were established in October. Next one I've gone for the Paradiso Citra IPA. That's my next one anyway. I'm currently drinking the Pine Trail Pale Ale.
I thought I've just popped that.
Inoffensive.
If I just do this,
Hey, by the magic.
Well, I didn't know whether that was going to just be can after can after can, just coming
no,
across.
it's too warm. That's why I set all of this up early doors. I was like, I need you to do me a favour. I need you to bring me beer. I can't bring cans of beer upstairs. They'll get warm and I won't enjoy it. I have been saving this for this moment.
Is that the sour?
I can only imagine it's going to be disgusting, but
I have one of them in the fridge. Oh, the non-YouTube people, get over there now. You can see the exact artwork on the can.
It's going to be horrible, isn't it? It's going to be horrible. But let's find out. Let's find out right now, live.
But for those of you who are listening to the podcast, that is the Big Drop Brewing Company and Admonton collab. It's Racy Rider, I think, is it called?
Rush Rider.
Rush Rider, and it is a pastry sour.
And if Andy gives it a glowing response, you will see me disappear very shortly and go and get mad.
It's from the Nordic collab box that they did earlier this year. We're kind of hopping ahead a little bit, but they worked with 4 companies in the Nordic area to produce 4 beers. We've got an elderflower IPA, a juniper berry IPA, I think, a coconut stout, and the pastry sour. Now, have we tasted, sampled, sniffed, swilled around our mouth, done all those kind of wonderful things that Mr. Williams Senior will approve of?
It's sour.
I you know, when you have that little bit off the lip of the can before you have a proper, and I was like, ooh, that is. I don't think the video is picking up the colour quite right. Part of me wants to say, when I poured it, I thought it was going to be like a reddish colour when it started pouring, and weirdly, I think if you look right at the bottom of the glass, it almost looks a different colour. Like at different places, it looks a different colour. That is sour.
I had that Monday night, I think, and it's great. It's really, really good. It hits all the notes of a pastry sour. It has that kind of pastry taste to it, the sour kind of thing to it. It's really, really good.
So I was convinced. I was like, there's absolutely no way when I crack that and drink it, I'm going to be tasting pastry. But I can absolutely taste pastry, and then it's just like somebody uppercuts you in the taste buds right at the end of it. That's delightful. There is so much going on there. I am loving that.
This is where kind of slight confession time. This me and Stu at the brewers table thing on Saturday. The brewers came round to kind of talk to us, and really, really nice guy. We had another one of their beers later on, which was really, really good. Black Lodge Brewing in Liverpool. The guy came up, what did you think of the beer that we gave you? And we both kind of, after you've had a few beers, the honesty kind of filter disappears, and you kind of like went, yeah. It was nice, but it wasn't kind of like what we would normally drink.
I think the honesty filter definitely was lowered, but we were still diplomatic enough to say it was nice. It just wasn't our favourite of the 5.
Yes, it was
because
a kettle
sour. Was it blackberry one or something?
Oh, it was a slow berry, wasn't like the slow gin kind of things. They do a raspberry one. I'll try that one. I'm sure that will probably be better than this one. I think the slow berry didn't really kind of come through. All right, back to Big Drop. Okay, so they were established in October 2016 by lifelong mates. One of the guys was a city lawyer, and he'd just become a father and was kind of reducing the amount of drinking that he was doing, but found that when he was drinking, there wasn't any beers any low alcoholic beers that he wanted to drink, because if we think, it's kind of thing that the grumble that you had there, Andy, was like perfectly legitimate, but compared to the kind of absolute ghost town of low ABV beers 5 years ago, it's kind of a cornucopia of it, as you would now, of beers. So him and his friend decided to do is try and establish a brewery that produced good 0 to 0.5% beers. At the same time, not artificially removing alcohol, which I presume either means boiling the beer or something like that to kind of evaporate it and take it out. So it is kind of the brewing process is a no alcohol or low alcohol brewing process. Looking at it, it's really interesting. They poached, or the brewer that used to be at Wild Beer Brewing Company came across to kind of help them out with their beers, and he's the brewer there. And I kind of started, I always like to have a look at the awards that they've won and stuff like that. You just got to go to the website. Kind of for low alcohol beers, the list is extensive and it's worldwide. And then when you go on the website as well, they've got a UK store, they've got a Europe store, they've got an American store, they've got a Canadian store. So they're kind of branching out worldwide, and going from the beers that we've tried so far. You can kind of understand why, to be honest. It's they got some really good tasting beers. So kind of I researched this, and then it kind of evolves into perhaps not being quite right. So I got the core range as being the Galactic Milk Stout. So the Pine Trail Pale Ale. This one, the Uptown Craft Lager. This one, the Paradiso Citra IPA. This one, the Wild Track American Pale Ale. And then they recently added the Poolside Double Dry Hopped IPA, which I would very much like to try.
That's a good one.
That was it. That's a good one. It sounds, anybody says double dry hopped IPA, I'm very much intrigued. But I also had the other night the Double Strike Sour. I was doing an order from one of the local breweries near to us. Perfect sour. It was really, really good, really tasty. But what I saw that they kind of just announced on their website is that in Waitrose they are releasing the Big Explorer Pack, which have 8 beers in there for £12. So for those of you willing to kind of look at it, and it's got those ones in the Galactic Milk Stout, the Pine Trail Pale Ale, the Uptown Craft Lager, the Paradiso Citra IPA, the Poolside Double Dry Hopped IPA, the Double Strike Sour, the Woodcutter Brown Ale that I thought was a seasonal one, and a Kobermeyer Cerveza. That looked quite light but cloudy. It looked quite interesting. But yeah, so kind of I suppose we've all, at this point, we've all kind of tried the Uptown Craft Lager. Have we all tried that one now?
Mine's in the fridge for the once I've finished the Paradiso.
Paradiso.
The lager was my first one tonight. So as the recording kicked off, that was the beer of choice, and I'm now onto the second of my big drop beers because I had the Laser Crush in between. And of the two so far, it wasn't my favourite. But as regular listeners will know, it was a lager, so it's not exactly a shock for me. But I'd drink it again. It wasn't bad enough that I was like, no. It was all right. It wasn't so bad. So that's probably about as glowing as a review as a lager's ever going to get from my mouth. So
I think when I said it tastes like a lager, and that's as much as I want to say about it, really.
I'm definitely obviously more interested in the next one, which I moved on to, because that's the one that I've got at the moment is the Pine Trail Pale Ale, I'm very much enjoying that.
It's quite nice. It's got like a nice bitter kind of end to it. I think it kind of tastes a bit like an IPA, but has like a nice bitter end to it.
Gonna have to have a little look as well, because when you were mentioning about the awards, I was holding up the bottle because it's got something on the side of it that says World Beer Awards World Best Style Winner. So
that'll lead us into links for other 0% beers or kind of thing, or if it's just the kind of thing. So then, I think one of these you probably haven't been able to taste yet. The kind of collabs or the seasonal ones. So I'll build up to the kind of thing. So there's a Kodama, which is an IPL. Now I thought that was a cricket kind of thing. I've not had that one. I don't know if that's an Indian Pale Lager.
correct.
I don't know what that one is. The Off-Piste Hazelnut Porter.
Ooh, that
That one
sounds
sounds good. Field Hopper Golden Ale. Whenever Field's mentioned in things, I'm always worried it's going to be particularly flowery and it's been like sieved through potpourri and stuff like that, and you're kind of like, lovely.
I always think it'll taste like hay.
Yeah.
Field on it.
It's when they say stuff like that, I always think they're going more saison style.
Yeah.
Saison's one of them for me, which is either absolutely nailed or terrible. I have not found like an average one yet. It seems to sit in either camp.
But yeah, like remember, like Badger, was it the Badger kind of brewing, like Badger Brewing, and they did like loads of like hopping hair and stuff like that, and you're like, oh my god, it's just like when we went to the brewing day and the guy lets chew on pellets of hops. Yeah, it's not a good idea. The Woodcutter Brown Ale, the Double Strike Sour, that one's really good. I quite like. We'll come back to that in a minute. The Firesider Pumpkin Spiced Pale Ale. There we go, Andy's.
I've got one.
Excellent.
I've got one of them in the fridge.
There we go.
When Big Drop's concerned, right? Obviously, when we knew this was coming up, so I had to immediately order some, and it was a case of I want to try some new things like this amazing pastry sour. But if I'm ordering if I order beer, there's always going to be a Laser Crush in there. If I'm ordering Big Drop, there's going to be certain ones that are always going to be in there. Like ones that I had, like the first time I ever had any and was just like, that's delicious. And that's one of them.
Excellent. I'll be one to try. And then Andy's kind of shown that, I think they might have shown us this before, the Kinzing Gatto Stout. And then then I've got Good Things, which is an Irish stout. I presume that's brought out around kind of March time or something like that. There we go, yeah. Nice.
So dark.
And then the last two, we've got they announced it the other day, and I'm a big fan of the clothing. We've mentioned their collab with North before, for Paperboy, but they're also doing a collab with Pariah, cycling clothing called Tailwind IPA. There's no such thing as tailwind in cycling. There's either a headwind or you're going like the fastest cyclist ever. Just as a kind of little cycling side note there. But that'll be quite interesting to see because the Pariah Paperboy, it is Paperboy, isn't it? The Pariah one are always absolutely fantastic. So it'll be quite interesting to see what they do there. And then the last kind of thing they're talking about is the World Collab Series, the Nordic version that they've done this year, and you've seen the Rush Rider Pastry Sour, which I had that the other night. It's absolutely amazing. It was absolutely amazing. The Juniper IPA, it was a bit kind of weak for me. Same with the Elderflower as well. And I haven't tried the Coconut Stout yet. I'm intrigued by the Coconut Stout. But yeah, anything else? Anything else about the old Big Drop, folks?
For me, this was one thing I was looking forward to about doing this podcast was that, like, predominantly in my past, it's been very much. Well, when we first started down the old craft beer path, it was very much a find a beer that I like, and then find one that's going to blow my socks off, and then we'll take it from there. And for quite a while, it did remain that way. But then as you get kind of more into it, it is nice to find the lower stuff that you can actually enjoy drinking. And when the opportunity came up to do this with the lower ABV stuff, I'm more than happy to try it. And so far, I'm impressed. So I'm very happy so far with the Big Drop. You might have seen my face when my glamorous assistant that's currently off camera, as we were talking about the pastry sour, I might have dropped a hint, and it has arrived, so I now have that next up on the agenda as well. So
get it cracked.
Excellent. And I was going to say, I quite the kind of we kind of generally talk about the kind of can designs or the bottle designs and stuff like that. The design's pretty kind of simple. They kind of obviously have the drop kind of thing. What I do like is if you look on like the description on the sides, so obviously they kind of give you an idea about it, but I always like the fact that they come up with their scale on the side. So for the Paradiso Citra, it's Jungle Warfare or Tropical Paradise. I can't think the sour, the Double Strike sour, has got something like it was like a 90s dance reference on the side to it. Like Acid House or something like that on the other side. So there's kind of, they have a different kind of thing. I can't think. The lager one is dinner party or street party kind of side to things. I think it's kind of like got like different kind of thing. Pine Trail, so Endless Tailback, Forest Track. It's kind of like, it's obviously all reference to the kind of to the type of beer it is and the kind of name that they've given it. I thought it's quite a clever touch kind of thing. And it's quite good how they kind of taught you through like the different hops that they use and stuff like that. I thought it was pretty smart kind of thing. I think they're moving possibly more to cans, which I think is the general kind of gist of a lot of breweries now. They're all pretty much moving towards the can. But then when you hear brewers, like we heard this weekend, saying it's about £15,000 to £17,000 to buy a canning machine, which is a massive outlay for a lot of breweries. It's why, I mean, yeah,
and that's like the lower end of the scale as well. But then that's where they get help, though, isn't it? That's where, if they get the option to work with another brewery, sometimes they might share that kit. There's companies like them that have like the mobile unit that goes in and does it for small batch brewers and stuff. So I think for the amount of time that they've been around, I think that they'd have to. I mean, increasing their output for that thing for Waitrose that you were saying, they must have had a hand with that or had the investment for it, because you'd have thought that could essentially open quite a few doors.
When you're starting to ship things around the world, and you kind of think like Europe was relatively easy to access. That's quite not an easy market to break into, but the American and the Canadian market is really challenging. They're very kind of when you go over there and drink in their breweries and stuff like that, they're really the tax on things are high. Obviously, with this being like lower or zero alcohol, I don't know how that changes it. But in Canada, it's like, to class yourself as a microbrewery, you can't ship your beer outside of 50 miles from the brewery. To then be like the next level up in terms of a brewery. You can only ship it like 250 miles radius. And in a country like Canada, small distance, small kind of space to work in, because it's fucking massive. So the fact that they're getting in there and getting into kind of like, places in the US and places in Canada to make it a viable business must mean that they're doing something really, really right and really well. I will say one more thing for them as well, in the sense that, like you say about reading the side of the bottles, if anybody is particularly interested in still having a beer but are maybe on a bit of a health kick, obviously the low alcohol thing, you might be thinking, well, that's an obvious choice. One thing that didn't really occur to me was the fact that all of these beers, by comparison to like a regular or higher ABV, are very, very low calories. So if anybody's on a kind of calorie count at the moment, the massive can of sour that Andy has smashed in, more or less, and that I'm about to, that whole can, 27 calories.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Nuts. Absolutely nuts.
And like the smaller bottles were only something like 60, which for a beer is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. They're all 61 calories for that one. 25 on the old Beavertown one.
Well, it's making me feel less and less guilty about drinking all this beer, so I'm happy with that.
Loads of beer, no headaches. Hey, Ryan, anything else about Big Drop at all?
I think the one thing I would just say with them is obviously the standard, like we said at the start, has got a lot better, and I think it is like you said, Matt. Well, it's because they're not brewing it as normal beer, and then removing the alcohol, which will probably massively affect the taste and the flavour and the sort of the composition and things like that. If you're actually brewing it without the hope of it ever becoming alcoholic in the first place, that's going to massively affect the flavour profile and the actual sort of state of the beer. And I think that's obviously like a massive sort of plus point that breweries are able to get to at this point, if they're sort of looking for that as a business model and stuff like that. It's a lot better that they're able to do that rather than have to sort of brew as usual and remove afterwards. So it's definitely going to affect the flavour.
I think, you think like, obviously the guy that's the brewer there is a really talented guy to get the flavour, because, you speak to you speak to all the other kind of, you speak to all the brewers, and kind of what's the thing that we were at on Saturday, it's talking about, to get the alcohol into it, and, that'll help the flavour profile, and obviously, if you raise it up, it'll help with this, that, and the other. They're producing decent beers that are, perfectly drinkable, and, I'm not cynical. I'm kind of apprehensive about kind of, what's a non-alcoholic beer going to taste like, and not because I'm just being a snob about it or kind of thing. It's because I've drank some terrible zero alcohol beers.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that earlier. I was trying to think about ones that I've drunk where I've been like, that's awful, and like you say, there are enough of them out there. There are, I've had 2 or 3 that I can name, which I won't, that I've had difficulty getting through them. It's like, why would you sell that? And how have you managed to sell that? Did nobody try it before you sold it? And I don't want to say bigger named companies, but I imagine everybody would recognise the names if I said them. So,
well, I'm going to name names. Before I really got into kind of craft ale, I quite liked Adnams. They're a kind of probably a more real ale based kind of beer brewery, but their kind of flagship beer was called Ghost Ship, and it was quite a tasty real ale, perfectly fine. They then decided to produce a zero alcohol version of it, and it was a Ghost Ship. It was a Ghost Ship of flavour. That beer did not taste anything like the original beer. Now, fair enough, I don't drink the original beer anymore, but the zero alcohol, I don't know what they've done in the process of it, but it was like, oh yeah, we've taken out the alcohol. Yeah, but you've taken out any modicum of flavour that was there with it. So what these guys are doing with these beers are producing kind of really tasty kind of drinks. I would say that the lager's a lager. If you like drinking lagers and you want a probably tastier lager, it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, I'm being a bit of a twat about it, saying, oh yeah, it tastes like a lager, because it tastes like a lager. It's not my choice of beer, but if you like, you can get a zero alcohol lager. It doesn't taste like that beer, whereas that does taste like a beer if you like that kind of thing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many more breweries start to kind of make an effort, because it's a shame that it's good to have breweries like this and some of the other breweries that we'll look at, but why are the bigger, not the bigger name breweries or something like that trying to do it? And I know it's going to be a lot of kind of trial and error and stuff, but you're missing a market that you could probably really kind of hack into if you do a good job with it.
I think it's interesting because obviously we mentioned the supermarket stuff before, and certainly a couple of them are definitely more on the uptake at the moment. But pre-lockdown, I wouldn't have said there was any. You might get a 4-pack of a Beck's Blue or something like that, but lockdown must have obviously it had a big impact on people in their spending habits in terms of buying direct from the breweries and stuff. And since things are starting to change again, I've noticed that just not just the non-alcoholic stuff, but there's certainly more people Tiny Rebel now seemingly have a deal with Sainsbury's, and Magic Rock have got a deal with Asda, even though I can't find it in my local Asda, so sort that shit out, please. But the non-alcoholic breweries have obviously then sort of seemingly had the same benefit, which is good to see. It's not just like you say, the bigger names, if you like, from the craft scene, because I would hazard a guess that either some people listening to this, some people that are walking into Waitrose will have never have heard of them, but I hope that they're willing to take a chance on them, because I'm impressed.
Definitely, I'll probably go and pick up that pack. Because when I saw it, I was like, all right, yeah, 8 beers for £12.
Yeah.
Yes, please. And like I said, I've already said, in Beavertown, kind of don't need my money as much as other breweries need my money, because they've got that Heine money, or the Bud money or whatever. But I'm definitely getting some of those in. Just for just in case.
If nothing else, it's a school night beer for sure. So
there you go. Yeah. All right then. Are we ready? We'll move on. We're ready to move on. We're moving on to the game that everybody's been waiting for. Desperately we're trying to win. Guess the ABV, or Matthew's ABV is right. It's kind of getting to the point now. It was a bit of a kind of thing where, the stash is not in a bad way. It's just a lot of the beers you Paul and Stuart probably had already. So it kind of makes it a bit more of a challenge to kind of keep them on their toes. So we'll see how they do. I might just have to go and dig around on the internet and stuff like that. Or, walk into my local bottle shop and just start writing the details down just to kind of keep you on your toes.
I feel like me and Paul are getting too much credit there, because I'm surprised that you think that we'll actually remember.
That's a good point. And the problem is, I think at the moment I've got a lot of North and a lot of Brew York in there, so I was like, you've definitely drank them. So, and the names are distinctive enough for you to remember. Right then. First First beer. Apple's virtual background. Cackle loudly on mute.
Wow. Now that really is one for James, if he's around.
I was going to say, did people want to try and guess the brewery with that one?
Well, if they're naming names, it's somebody who's not afraid to do it.
So yeah, Apple's virtual background. Applies virtual background. It would help if I read my own writing. Applies virtual background. Cackle loudly on mute.
Oh man, what was the name? I think this is from a brewery from the box that you supplied me with this weekend. And I can't remember the name of the brewery without going to get the can, and obviously can't do that right now. Is it the brewery that had the the can art that was like the old Channel 4 test card?
No.
No. Oh well, that was my guess. I realise that's very very specific and niche to people who haven't actually seen that, but I have no idea.
You don't have to name the brewery. You can just go for the ABV and beer type.
Well, the name implies that you should probably drink it whilst you're supposed to be working from home. So I don't know. Maybe somewhere around 5.5 IPA. I'm saying
5.5 IPA. Yeah. Paul.
So I also think it's an IPA. I'll go 4.9.
Okay.
As has been a theme of things in the past, Stu absolutely just took every bit of my guess from me. So part of me is like I'm going to be stubborn and stick to my guns and go with the same. But now I'm like, so I'll be that guy. Still an IPA, but 5.4.
Well, I thought you might have guessed the brewery due to the incredibly kind of long and kind of wanky name.
Is it Cloudwater?
It's Cloudwater, yeah. It's a double IPA, and it's 8%. That one goes to Stu by the 0.1%.
A big thanks to Andy for going 0.1 lower rather than 0.1 higher.
Next one, uppercase.
Oh man, I recognise this, but I don't think I've had it. I recognise the name though. Uppercase. What does that imply? That imply uppercase implies big. Implies, or could it be the other way around in the sense of it's the beginning of the sentence? So do you start low and work your way up? I'm not sure.
Tell you something. I thought I overthought stuff on like certain podcasts, and you just taken this to the next level, man.
Well, I mean, I could just play it safe and just go IPA 5.5 again and see what Andy does. I will say it is I'm going to say pale ale then, just to be different. I'm going to say 4.8.
Okay.
I'm going to go slightly different. I'm going to go double dry hopped pale. And I'm going to go 6.2%.
Okay.
I still think it's an IPA. I think it's still IPA. I'm going flat 5. Flat 5.
Flat 5. It is another Cloudwater one. In collab with Trillium. It is a double IPA. And it's 9%.
Wowzers.
I've bought myself another tasty beverage.
We've got to be going lower then next. Oh, he's gone for the stout.
Last one got left. Right then, next one. Damn Dead Blueberry. Damn Dead Blueberry.
Gotta be a sour.
Jumping straight in, okay?
Damn Dead Blueberry. Yeah, I'll go sour. 4.9.
Okay.
I'm going to swing slightly different, and I'm going to say it's on the theme of this, not the sour, but the pastry element. I'm going pastry stout, perhaps, around about 6.
Okay.
I'm going just stout, just a standard stout. 6.5.
6.5. Mr. Williams virtually smashes it out of the park there. It's from Wild Weather Brewing. It's a blueberry lactose sour, 4.2%.
Is that one each? Are we all on one each now?
I'm up 2-1 that.
No, it's worth a try.
Right then, next one. To Bunker 13. To Bunker 13, wherever that is.
So we've gone back to Cloudwater then.
It's not a Cloudwater one.
Do you want to have first crack on this one, Andy?
I'm going porter, 7%.
Okay. So, Mr. Williams having a sup of his drink there to guide his thoughts.
To Bunker 13.
Which will be somewhat clearer than usual at this point on the podcast.
Surprisingly enough, yeah. To Bunker 13. I'm going to go bold. I'm going to go triple IPA. Beefy, 9.2%.
Okay. I wouldn't class that as a beefy triple IPA, but you know.
Well, did you say it was called two Bunker 13?
2 Bunker 13, as in going to
So that to me implies like nuclear something. So I was also
The recording has stopped.
triple IPA.
This meeting is being recorded.
Yes, my dear.
Right. After a brief interlude there, we're coming back to the most kind of at the business end of Matthew's ABV is right.
So I think I was giving my prediction for what the 2 Bunker 13 was.
Yes.
And Paul had already pissed in my cornflakes by taking the triple IPA off me, which was going to be it. But I will take your 9.2% and raise you to 11%.
Excellent. So, it is in fact a sour IPA from Full Circle Brewing Company, kind of one the brewery in Newcastle, that is, and it's 6.2%. 6.2%. Yeah, so I think I don't know where that one goes. Does Paul speak that one? Don't know.
He had 9%. What did Andy have?
Andy he went a stout, but yeah, I think Andy got that one there. So that's 2 for Paul, 1 for Andy, 1 for Stu. Last one.
Can't lose! Yes!
Purgatory in Paradise. Purgatory in Paradise.
I'd be tempted to say tropical IPA on the Paradise theme, and I will go in at 7.2.
Pastry sour, 8%. It's my new favourite
Loving
thing.
the pastry sour.
I love it. It's my new favourite thing ever. It's just the best.
Pastry sours are the best. I was going to say, I love, whenever I see like other pastry sours, I'm like, oh yeah, you're definitely going into the basket as I go around the shop.
I'll close us out then with a guess at a stout. Purgatory in Paradise. 7.5%.
100%. Okay then, it is a Strata Rye IPA from Wylam, who seem to be doing a lot of these kind of hop-specific kind of IPAs at the moment. I presume after listening to the brewer talk, I think they just got really, really bored with just like 8 of them in the brewery for like the past kind of year or so. And it's a 4.7% on that one. So yeah. Excellent. Right. Any other business? Or any other beerness, as we like to say.
No.
I'm all good. I'm a happy man with a very, very full fridge, so it bodes well for next time out.
Fingers crossed. See, a full fridge does not guaranteed good month make. Trust me.
All Chinese proverbs say.
A full stash does not guarantee good month make. Yeah, I think like just then we were just talking there, Andy. I've had the sour, not the sour, the stout. It's really, really good. It tastes like a stout.
Yep.
It's just, there's no kind of like beating about, and a good stout as well. Not a rubbishy stout. I've enjoyed all the beers. Apart from the only one I haven't had so far is the coconut stout. The coconut stout from the Nordic kind of thing. Right, so we'll wind it up there. So thank you for joining me, gents, for a low to zero alcohol beverage drink. Thank you for those of you who are listening. Get out and try some of these beers, because I think, if I'm honest, I kind of came in with I went with an open mind, but kind of a slightly cynical mind to it. But yeah, get out there, like, subscribe to the podcast on the YouTube, on wherever you listen to your podcasts, and get out there and try some of these beers. And if you've got any other recommendations that you want to make to us for either good supermarket beers, good low alcoholic beers, just any good beers, any breweries that you'd like us to talk about, we've got loads. But if anyone wants to throw one in there that we can investigate, that's more than happy to do, particularly kind of after investigating Big Drop. But yeah, right, and thank you very much.
And as well, on the note of other places to investigate, even if you think it's obscure, even if you think that we won't have heard of it, why not? We'll give it a go. Oh
yeah, we're not. We're open to new breweries. I think that's the kind of the thing that we don't claim to know everything about all the beers. We want to know about more beers. Yeah. All right then. Well, thank you very much, gents.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Wow.
The recording.
So there you go. What do you think of that? Technical difficulties aside, not a bad podcast. Did cater to my needs, and so, you know, I'm going to love it, aren't I? If you loved it too, show your love by subscribing, whether it's watching along on YouTube or listening along, SoundCloud, iTunes, or wherever. If you've got a suggestion for a brewery for us to check out, give us a shout. If you've got a brewery and you want to invite us down, give us a load of free drinks, really, you know, cement that relationship with the podcast, we're open to suggestions. So, you know, drop us a line. So there we go. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.